start you off in Ukraine, where missing arms shipments, broken down vehicles, and intra-governmental lawsuits. A new report paints a damning portrait of Kyiv's efforts to requisition enough military hardware as it aims to continue its counter-offensive going. A New York Times report states that in the rush to arm Ukraine, weapons are bought but not delivered or are too broken to use. Ukraine has paid contractors hundreds of millions of dollars for weapons that have not been delivered. Some of the much publicized arms donated by allies have been so worn out that they were deemed fit only to be cannibalized for spare parts. Ukrainian government documents show that as of 2022's end, Kyiv had paid arms suppliers over $800 million for contracts that went fully or partly unfulfilled. Meanwhile, NATO members who have sent billions of dollars worth of weapons and equipment into Ukraine to help it fight back against Russia. But the war has strained already depleted weapons stockpiles for many European countries. Germany's armed forces only have around 20,000 high explosive artillery shells left. Citing confidential Defense Ministry papers, German media house has stated that the country's armed forces are running low on high explosive artillery shells. Countries like Germany have rushed to send supplies of 155mm artillery rounds used by howitzers to Ukraine. And now Ukraine's European allies are facing a dilemma. Do they keep sending their stocks of weapons to Ukraine and potentially increase their own vulnerability to Russian attacks? On the other hand, if they hold back to what is left to protect their homeland, they risk the possibility that makes a Russian victory in Ukraine more likely. This situation has risen as for many European nations, military spending became a lower priority after the end of the Cold War, which weakened their defense industrial bases. U.S. defense companies also had a role as they moved to compete for European contracts. German military reportedly needs to build up an inventory of some 30,000 shells by 2031 to comply with NATO's goals to have enough artillery to withstand a 30-day combat. And unlike European leaders, Russia's President Vladimir Putin can order weapon makers to go into 24 hours a day production. Moscow has directed some troops to factories instead of the front lines. Russia has a track record of reconstituting its military every few years, like moves against Georgia in 2008 and the 2014 annexation of the Crimean Peninsula. Okay, for more on this, we are being joined by John Earth from Washington, D.C. He is a senior policy director for the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation in Washington. The situation with arms to Ukraine seems troubling, to say the least. What is going on?
What's going on is there is a war happening. And in war, by nature, things are chaotic and everything tends to go wrong. Nothing goes according to plan. And I think we're seeing some reflection of that. And it's obviously having an effect on the supplies of munitions to the armed forces of Ukraine and likely to the Russian side as well.
And moving forward, do you think that this will give Russia the upper hand, considering the fact that there is some problems with the delivery of weapons to Ukraine during its counteroffensive?
It's difficult to say. So much of what is being reported about this war is propaganda from both sides. And certainly Russia has an interest in making its armed forces appear to be stronger than they are. So I think you have to account for the influence of the propaganda aspect. But certainly it is an obstacle to Ukrainian hopes to regain their territory if they continue to have these kinds of supply problems. They need to have munitions, they need to have weaponry, they need to have artillery shells. in order to conduct an offensive that would regain their territory.
Well, thank you so much for those comments and that perspective. John Erath joining us from Washington, D.C. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Thank you.